In Lesson 3.6, you will be adding and subtracting unlike fractions. You'll add unlike fractions and subtract unlike fractions. Please read the words and the symbols of the key concept in the middle of the page. To add fractions with unlike denominators, rename the fractions with a common denominator. Then add and simplify as with like fractions. In symbols, we have an example here with 2/3 and 1/2. We're going to rename those with common denominators of 6 and then add the numerators and simplify like we did with like fractions. Again, that's something you already know how to do, but putting the words with the explanation is really important. Unlike fractions are fractions with different denominators. And you're going to use the least common multiple, also known as the LCM, of the denominators to rename the fractions before adding them. At the bottom of the page, Got It for example 1 has you just adding simple fractions with unlike denominators. Find the least common multiple of each set of fractions and then add. Press pause and work out the problems, and then press play to check your answer. For 1A, you should have gotten 11/12. For 1B, you should have gotten 1/2. 1C, 7/10, and 1D, 7/12. The key concept here is not something new to you. It's something, though, I do want you to understand and be able to explain using words. To subtract fractions with unlike denominators, rename the fractions with a common denominator, then subtract and simplify as with like fractions. The rule for subtracting fractions with unlike denominators is similar to the rule for addition. So when we have subtracting fractions with unlike denominators, we need to rename them to have the same denominator and then proceed like we would with subtracting like fractions. 3 minus 6 is -3, and -3/8 is the same thing as -3/8. For mixed numbers, we're going to have to either rename them as improper fractions, or we can set them up another way like this: 9 and 3/5, take away 7 and 2/3, and we can subtract them by borrowing from the 9. But before we do that, we have to find the common denominator here of 15. So we have 9/15 and we have 10/15. And because we can't take 9/15, take away 10/15, we have to borrow from the 9 and make it an 8. This 9 becomes a 24 because when we borrowed 1 right here, we borrowed 15/15, and we added to the 9/15 that were already there. So 24/15 take away 10/15 is 14/15, and then 8 take away 7 is 1. We get the same answer as if we change them both to improper. It's just a matter of preference on how you want to do those problems. For the Got It problems at the bottom, 3A, the common denominator for 4 and 9 is 36. 8/9 becomes 32/36, and 3/4 becomes 27/36. 27 minus 32 is 5, and the denominator is 36. Since we're taking 27 minus 32, it's a -5. The final answer is -5/36. On 3B, we can change these to improper. I'm going to set this up what I would call the traditional way. 7 and 1/6 take away 6 and 5/8. The common denominator for 6 and 8 is 24. So we have 4/24 and we have 15/24. And since we can't take 4/24 minus 15/24, we're going to borrow 1. When we borrow 1, that's 24/24 plus the 4/24 that we already have. So that's 28/24. Take away 15/24, which is 13/24 for 3B. For 3C, we have minus a negative, which turns into plus. So we have 5 and 1/3 plus 4 and 5/9. The common denominator for 3 and 9 is 9. So we have 3/9 plus 5/9 ninths, which is 8 ninths, and 5 plus 4 is 9. 9 and 8 ninths is the answer to 3C. For example 4, we have a story problem where you will need to add mixed numbers. For the got it problem, at a recent frog jumping contest, the winning frog jumped 21 and 1/3 feet. The second place frog jumped 20 and 1/2 feet. How much further did the first place frog jump? We're going to subtract those. And 21 and 1/3 and 20 and 1/2 need to have a common denominator of 6. So we have 2/6 and we have 3/6. 21 and 2/6 take away 20 and 3/6. I'm going to borrow from the 21 and make it a 20, and the 2/6 becomes 8/6. 8/6 minus 3/6 is 5/6, and 20 minus 20 is 0. So the first place frog jumped 5/6 of a foot further than the second place frog. So for the higher order thinking problem number 49, it says to explain why you cannot add or subtract fractions with unlike denominators without renaming the fractions. It says you may use a diagram to illustrate your answer, but I'm going to illustrate my answer using a decimal equivalent for each fraction. So I have 1/2 plus 3/10, and if I ignored the common denominator rule, I would just add across saying 1 plus 3 is 4, and 2 plus 10 is 12, and 4/12 equals 1/3. But if I convert these to decimals, 1/2 of a dollar is 50 cents, and 3/10 of a dollar is 30 cents, and 50 cents plus 30 cents is 80 cents, and that's nowhere near 1/3. Your homework for lesson 3-6 is 1 through 31 odds. I know that sounds like a lot, but I really want to make sure that you are secure in your skills of adding and subtracting fractions with unlike denominators. Let me know if you need any extra help.